A health equity assessment of Port St. Joe revealed significant health disparities among citizens, shaped by socioeconomic inequity and issues within the built environment. To address these issues, the community held workshops where participants envisioned various futures for Port St. Joe through transformative scenarios. These scenarios are complex, multifaceted situations requiring diverse perspectives and collaboration, and represent three possibilities rather than direct predictions. On the topic of neighborhoods and built environments, participants had many related concerns, one of which was brownfield sites, and another being the housing crisis. To illustrate these issues, we present a hypothetical resident of Port St. Joe, Bob. Bob lives in the north side of Port St. Joe, volunteers in the community garden, and wants to start a garden in his own backyard. Bob is also retired and elderly, so he is very concerned about these issues. In order to better understand possible outcomes, let's see Bob's experience would be under these three scenarios. A brownfield is a property that may have hazardous substances, pollutants, or contaminants present, complicating its expansion, redevelopment, or reuse. These sites are often former industrial or commercial areas that require cleanup before they can be safely used again. North Port St. Joe is situated right next to the former site of the paper mill, which was operated by the St. Joe Company in the city for over 60 years. The paper mill still has impacts on the local area because of the brownfields that were left behind. There is no current plan for cleaning up these brownfields. In a cesspool scenario, researchers identify more contaminated sites. The city might have to destroy the buildings which reside on some of these newly found contaminated sites, including Bob's home, and if the St. Joe Company owns any of these buildings, the company would have to foot the cost of demolition and/or cleanup. Such an outcome would be hazardous to Bob. In a Murky Waters scenario, knowing about past and potential contaminated sites could worsen blight and lead to socioeconomic decline, lowering property values. However, more sites might attract state and federal cleanup funding, creating redevelopment opportunities and potentially increasing property values. In a living waters context, identifying brownfield sites and heightened environmental regulations driven by a stronger state and federal emphasis on environmental justice will enhance environmental management. Improved neighborhood conditions could result due to the discovery of contaminants and the implied liability to clean up. All of these outcomes are good for Bob's health and economic well-being. As seen with contaminated lands, housing is impacted in all scenarios, especially home values. This highlights the broader housing crisis that many Americans currently face. In the midst of the current housing crisis, many citizens struggle to find adequate housing that meets their needs. The challenge lies not only in the scarcity of available homes, but also in the fact that few options that do exist are often priced well beyond what the average citizen can afford. As a result, finding a suitable and affordable place to live has become an increasingly difficult task for many. In a cesspool scenario, the housing crisis could escalate. A volatile market might worsen the housing situation for new residents moving to the area. This could also lead to the ongoing gentrification and segregation for Bob and his neighbors. Bob would most likely be unable to afford living elsewhere in Port St. Joe, even as North Port St. Joe becomes more expensive. In a murky water scenario, the housing crisis might not be that bad. Community supportive commercial and residential development might happen, which could forestall complete gentrification, but slowly. This situation would still reduce quality of life for Bob and his neighbors from unavoidable increases in cost of living for the current residents due to neighborhood improvements. In a living water scenario, it's possible Bob might experience things getting better. This could happen if the government and/or nonprofit or private funders build affordable housing in other parts of Port St. Joe. As a result, there would be ample availability for residents who are surviving on fixed incomes or living paycheck to paycheck, such as Bob. This housing would be located in a central area with access to resources such as groceries and hospitals. Real people are affected by these issues, and all scenarios are possibilities, not predictions. By coming together, Port St. Joe can influence which scenarios become more likely. Participate to understand these issues and better communicate with the community and local government. Join the conversation.